Our next guest is helping to raise awareness about the importance of mental health and suicide prevention. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for people aged 10 to 34, behind unintentional injuries. The CDC says suicide affects Black youth at twice the rate as other racial groups. New York Jets defensive lineman Soloman Thomas lost his sister Ella to suicide when she was just 24 years old. Thomas and his family started a nonprofit group called The Defensive Line with the goal of ending the youth suicide epidemic. And Soloman Thomas is here. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for having me.
Glad you're here.
We're so happy to have you here. Let's begin just with the impact of Ella's suicide and how it has shaped your approach, you and your family, to mental health.
Yeah, kind of for me growing up, I wasn't always in mental health. It wasn't something that was always at my forefront, or I kind of was in the archaic mindset of being a man, tough through it, push through, don't cry, don't show emotion. And, that worked for me for a while, until I lost my sister. And I went through my own depression. I went through my own journey. And I tried to do the same thing. I tried to push through. I tried to fight through. And it just led me to a darker place, a place where I didn't see the light, a place where I didn't want to wake up anymore. And I had to get help. And I went to therapy. And I learned so much more about mental health, how to cope with my emotions, how to honor them, how to truly be a man, how to cry, how to be there for myself and others, but also how to share my story. And from sharing my story, I learned how big of a problem this is in our world, and how suicide is an epidemic in the USA and just the world in general, and how many people need help and they need to hear stories, and how vulnerability can save people and really affect people, and just let people know that, hey, we're all going through something, so it's important to talk about it, to be transparent so people know that they're not alone.
So how hard was it? Number one, I'm so glad you're here. I think this is so important for men, Black or white, just men in particular, because I like that you use the word archaic to describe your feelings. So how hard was it for you to talk about it? And what did you do to get to the point where you can sit at the table and talk so publicly about it?
Yeah, no, it was really hard. It's not something that I always wanted to do. I didn't want to come on national television and tell people my deepest, darkest times, or about being suicidal, or about not wanting to be here. But, from doing that, I saw how many people struggled, and I saw how many people needed to hear this message, and that's what kept me going, and it's why I share my story. People need to know it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to cry, it's okay to be anxious, it's okay to be depressed. These are all emotions and experiences of the human experience, and we're all kind of going to go through them at some point in our life, so it's important to talk about them so we can all kind of feel human and feel normal, because that's how people can be grounded and can connect in that way.
We all know that, Solomon. It's okay not to be okay, but it still is very hard to do. And so I'm trying to figure out, what can we say, what can we do to show to people, to say to people that we must do this. Not only is it okay, but it's essential that we do this.
Yeah, I think there are a few ways. I think first, it's so important to educate ourselves on mental health. Understanding the science of it, understand that, hey, sometimes you're not getting enough serotonin to your brain, sometimes you're not blocking enough cortisol. To understand these things are important, because then you can treat it like the scientific disease that it is, the illness that it is, the disorder that it is. Because if you don't understand that, then you're kind of left in the archaic mindset of, oh, it's just a feeling. Oh, I can just push through it. So I think that's important first. But then after that, it's important to ask the question, how are you doing? But how are you doing right now?
Right now.
And I think when you followed up with that, you really kind of hit that human level. Okay, because when I was struggling, people asked me how I was doing, I would just say I'm doing good, I'm fine. But that one time someone asked me, how am I doing really? I just started bawling, crying, because it really hit a level where I was like, okay, they really want to know how I'm doing. And then, from that, you can ask follow-up questions. You can see if they need help. And then if it's to a point where you need to ask this question, it's important to ask, and it's real. Are you suicidal right now? And those questions are so important.
Ask it that bluntly?
Yeah.
Are you suicidal right now?
I think it's really important, and the science that we get from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention proves that it lessens the risk of suicide.
Yeah, people have a fear that if you ask that directly, that you're somehow going to plant the idea,
That
but in
you'll
fact, we
trigger
hear
them.
from you, we hear from other people that is the state of the science, that you should ask directly and get a direct answer and take action if you need to.
Definitely, yes, sir.
So you've got this foundation, this nonprofit, the Defensive Line, great name, by the way.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about the resources that are provided.
Definitely, yeah. So in 2021, my family and I, we launched the Defensive Line, where our mission is to end the epidemic of youth suicide, especially for young people of color, by transforming the way we connect and communicate over mental health. And we're doing this by we're going into schools, business programs, collegiate sports programs, and we're running our suicide prevention programs where we're teaching mentors of youth, mentors of co-workers, bosses, CEOs, making sure they know how to have the conversation of mental health, how to ask a question, how to talk about feelings, just how to create a safe environment in their workplace, in the locker room, in the classroom, to where all your students, all your coworkers, everyone around your employees can feel comfortable talking about mental health, knowing the resources around them, knowing how to look for warning signs, knowing how to see, okay, maybe he's not getting enough sleep, maybe his emotions are different today, maybe I should go check on him. These kind of things that are small things but can really change someone's life and also save someone's life. I think they're very important.
I know we have to go, but I have to ask you, how are we feeling about Aaron Rodgers?
We are loving Aaron Rodgers. He's amazing in the building, great leadership. You know, he's a guy who's commanding the room. You know, he can coach the O-line, he can coach the receivers, coach the tight ends, running backs. It's been really beautiful seeing how he just knows the game of football and can really put everything together.
Okay, and like I said, I know we have to go, but would you like me to fix you up with anyone? Do you have a partner? Are you single or available? What's your time? I'm not asking for me. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm single and available, so you can fix me up.
Okay.
Looking for help. Soloman Thomas. It's been a great
Soloman Thomas.
Oh, wonderful appearance.
But with the work,
He's so talented.
he's very talented, and the work you're doing is going
It's
to
very important.
yeah, this is important.
Thank you.
Very glad you came.